I am hoping that this video goes smoothly today because words feel really hard because I did not sleep well. So I'm like, hopefully it goes really well today. Hello friends, happy Wednesday. So very excited that you're here. So excited that I'm here. It is a new month and so it's gonna be a new month of prompts. I'm very excited for all of these. Definitely looking forward to ones coming up as well as today. But in case if you're not familiar with Top 5 Wednesday, in a nutshell, basically each week I answer a prompt using 5 books, but in this case I do manga to reflect the said prompt. And today's prompt is pretty long, okay? It's books we dropped only to come back and love it a second time, which that prompt title says pretty much what today's prompt is going to be, because sometimes, you know, you read that manga or manhwa or just book in general and you're like, this is just not vibing with me. I'm not connecting with the characters or I'm not connecting with the story. You're like, you know what? We're just going to drop it. We're not going to continue it for whatever reason. And then say a few weeks later or a few months or even years later, that one friend shares about the manga, gushing how much that they loved it, or we see a review somewhere online where people are saying the same thing in the sense that they loved it so much, best manga or whatever that they've ever read, and it's like, you know, I think I'm gonna give it a second chance, and you give it a second chance and you absolutely love it. I definitely have had this case happen, and I guess this is actually a great time to go into number 1, which I surprisingly am gonna say 7th time loop. I read volume 1, I think it was February of last year or January of last year, and I liked it. I didn't think it was bad, but ultimately I was like, I'm not gonna continue. I had volumes 1 through 3 and I ended up selling all 3 of them. But as you know, if you've seen my review of 7th Time Loop, then you know that I rebought them and I deeply love the series. But when I read it the first time, our main girl, I felt her past lives were 10 times more interesting than her current life. Even though the second time when I went back and I read it, I enjoyed it more than the first time, it still was not my favorite out of all of the volumes. Don't get me wrong, I did really like it the second time when I read it, but it just makes me laugh because when I read it the second time, I was like, I don't understand why I didn't like her current life. I mean, it is very different because she's aiming to have a lazy life, doesn't have to do anything, but she's doing all of these things. Like, she's using her past knowledge in this life to help make things better, to help change what she feel will be the outcome based off of how everything else has been in her previous lives. And so I was like, Laura, where was the disconnect the first time? So I'm very thankful that we did get an anime announcement, because ultimately that is what made me want to try it again. Especially, I think it was my friend Darcy loves the light novels, and I'm like, okay, I think I really need to come back and give this a second try. And again, I'm just glad I did, because I deeply loved this manga. It was one of my favorite reads last year. Very, very enjoyable, and I feel like each volume just continues to get more engaging, just gets better and better. I love it. I love our main girl so much, so I'm like, I feel bad that when I first picked it up last year that I didn't super love it, that I just wasn't hooked. And when I started the anime and watched it, you know, from the beginning, which starts at volume 1, I never felt that at all. Like, I was like, this is great, this is perfect, this is peak. So I don't know what happened, but I'm glad I came back. I really, really love this manga. I would highly recommend it. It has been a gem of a read, been super duper enjoyable, and I'm so glad I just came back. For number 2, a similar thing happened where I read volume 1 and I just did not really like it. But then we got the anime announcement and I was like, you know what? It's time to come back and give that manga a second try. And I loved it. I loved it. And that is Tear Moon Empire. This manga is so much fun. Volume 3 of last year. I read it on New Year's Eve, right? New Year's Eve. And it was amazing. It was a perfect read to bring in the new year. I laughed so much. The only reason I dropped it the first time is once again, I feel bad. I did not like Mia in the beginning. I felt she was very selfish. I felt she was very spoiled, and I did not well, maybe not spoiled, but very selfish, yes. And I didn't appreciate the humor in this sense of people think that Mia is so amazing, but if they could just see into her mind, they would know that the misunderstanding taking place is not accurate at all. She is not this angel or this person that has these unselfish reasonings of doing things. No, she's typically doing the things that she does because she just doesn't want want to die later on by the gallows. Yeah, she just doesn't want that to happen. So that is her driving motivation for many, if not every single decision that she makes. And so at first, I really didn't like that because this is a sort of similar to Seventh Time Loop, not an isekai. It's like a time travel kind of story because Mia, she dies and then she goes back 10 years earlier, I think it is. And so now she's a young woman. Yeah, she's 12 years old now and she was 21 or 22 when she first died. And so she's trying to make different decisions so that that outcome is not what it will be like it was the first time. And I just feel bad because I felt like I appreciated the humor a lot more the second time around. I also was able to see that Mia's not quite as selfish as I pictured her in my head the first time that I read. Yes, she does still have that motivation there, but she genuinely does care for a lot of the people around her. And even if she doesn't want anything to happen to her personally, she deeply cares for her country and the people. And so she wants them to be safe. But it is funny that when you get into later volumes and how Mia meets the people who were basically the three biggest people involved in her dying the first time, she's just definitely trying to avoid them. But everything she's doing to try and avoid them always backfires, and they're actually interested in Mia and want to get to know her better as a friend, which causes her a lot of anxiety and a lot of panic. I have really, really enjoyed it. It's a very funny story, and I'm just glad that I came back and saw Mia through a different lens because, again, she's just not nearly as selfish as I thought that she was, and I just really appreciate the humor in this series, and there is a romance that's happening that I am so 100% here. Like, I can't wait to see it bloom and unfold. I'm here for it and I'm loving it, and so I have deeply enjoyed this series a lot. I don't know if I marked it on my list of favorite reads last year, but I definitely feel like it should be on there, even as an honorable mention, simply for the fact that I did drop it and then I came back and loved it 10 times more than I did the very first time. I would not be surprised if Tear Moon Empire makes it for sure on my favorites list of this year. And I do have a review of this series as well if you're interested. I think I did share about how I dropped it and then I came back and just absolutely love it so much. For number 3, this one does have an anime, but I've never seen it and I feel bad and I hope nobody comes for me because for number 3, I am going to say My Love Story, and I can feel some like, what? How dare you, Laura? Now, let me be clear. I never disliked this story at all, and the only reason I'm putting it on this list, and I guess technically it should be an honorable mention, is the first time I picked it up, I was just starting to get into manga, and I don't even know who it was. To this day, I still don't know who it was. They recommended this to me. I checked it all out from my library at that time. This was many years ago. I got it, and our main guy, I was so turned off by the way that he looked in the manga, that he was not like Suna, and I just, my heart, man, I was like, past me, just didn't know. And then when I came back, because I know TheMangaSloth had recommended this to me, and somewhere in there, my husband watched the anime, watched it twice actually, and deeply loved it. And after that, he read the manga because somewhere in there I had bought it, and he binge read all of it. So he watched the anime twice, and he binge read the series, and I was like, I am seriously missing out on some greatness here. I was like, I need to read this, though. It was sometime later before I did read it because I buddy read it with Marg, and Marg reads manga, and then I read it with Prof, and I did do a video review of this series. I deeply loved it. So this is more, I guess, of an honorable mention in the sense, I guess, I don't know. I didn't even read it, guys. I didn't even read it after I got it. I just remember opening the main pages. I feel bad. I saw Takeo like this, and I just was not sold. And I'm like, what kind of manga is this? This is not pretty art. Look, y'all, I don't feel that way now, but past me, didn't know what peak was at the time. And I even remember reading this note, and I was just like, I don't think this manga's for me, but it was for me. It was for me. It's really, really good. So I'm definitely glad that I came back and give it a second chance. This is like the first manga I think I dropped, even though I didn't own it at the time, but I felt like I just dropped it for not really a good reason, to be honest. So I'm glad it came back. It's very good. Highly recommend this one as well. For number 4, I laugh about this, but I first have to say I have the actual volume. This volume is mine. It's not a library copy. It belongs to me, and that is QQ Sweeper Volume 1. It's mine. It doesn't have the library, like the library stuff on the side, and I'm just so grateful that this got restocked. But it's really funny. So I read QQ Sweeper Volume 1. I think I started it 2 years ago because it wasn't last Christmas, but the Christmas before that, and I dropped it. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know if me was like, well, maybe this is a Christmassy kind of story. No, I was so turned off by the giant bugs that are in this manga. Totally just were like, no, I cannot do this. This is not for me. And I was just really freaked out at first. I was so intimidated by it at the time. I was like, I'm never coming back to this story. I will never pick it up again. And though I saw people on Twitter just gushing how amazing this series is, how it's so great, talking about mental health, taking care of your mental health, the importance of cleaning, like not just physically cleaning, but mentally cleaning your mind and whatnot. And I was like, okay, we're going to come back and we're going to attempt this, but not at Christmas, not at Christmas. And I loved it. The bugs didn't bother me nearly as much though. I was like, don't read it at nighttime, Laura, read it during the day. And so I was totally fine. I love this series. I do have a review because it won my shoujo event last year of Laura's Read and Review Shoujo Spree. And I'm so thankful it did. This is one of my favorite series. I was so deeply impacted by Fumi, Kyutaro, and their journey. It has been a life-changing manga for me to help me have personal breakthroughs in my own life. And in that review, I did talk about that. It's the only one of 2 manga reviews I've ever filmed that I cried in. It was just a very powerful story. And I'm so glad that past me ate my words of, I'll never read this again. Girl, you came back and you read it and you loved it. Like, yes, eat those words because you absolutely love this past, Laura. And so I'm very, very thankful that I came back. I mean, genuinely very thankful. I think I have this entire list. Like, this is the one series I'm deeply thankful I came back because those breakthroughs have just continued to impact me and touch me today. This is a very powerful series. It has great action, great romance, and a lot of other layers to this story that's so very deeply heartfelt and just so very wonderful. I'm not ready for this series to end. I keep hearing people that are reading like the Japanese editions, or I guess the Japanese volumes, and they're like, I cried because it's on volume 22 and we already know the announcement of like that the series is in the final arc. And I'm just like, I'm not ready just because I love this series so very much. So I would highly recommend it. It is a darker fantasy in my opinion, especially compared to what I have read in the past, but it definitely makes it no less impactful. Highly, highly recommend. It's so wonderful. And again, I'm just glad that I ate my words and that I did come back to reading this. For number 5, I'm a little bit unsure of what to say for this one, and that is Mint Chocolate. I have talked about this series a few times, and I tried it originally because I saw a few friends that were gushing how much they love this, and then I found that it sort of had like this step-sibling kind of romance, and I was like, no. I was like, we don't do that. But then I had a friend who talked to me about it, and I decided to give this series a second try, and I think I was very hesitant to give it a second try because I was very afraid that I was going to get judged for reading this kind of series. But I loved it so much, and I don't feel like it is an actual step-sibling romance, excuse me. I did a review talking about that. I felt there were very clear boundaries, clear lines. They don't see each other as siblings. There's none of that. I really, really have enjoyed this. It's very easygoing for the most part. There's not a lot of high stakes, though there definitely is some currently high stakes that are happening. I'm like, I need the next volume. I need to know what's going to happen. I was going to say, our main girl I found really relatable. There is a situation that happened that honestly deeply reminded me of my own struggles. Like, it was like pulling my own struggles out of the manga and just boom, in real life. Like, it was very, very relatable. And so I love our main girl a lot. And that really drives why I enjoyed this series so much, and seeing many aspects of myself, especially my teenage self, in her, very much encouraging her on, because she's definitely a lot more stronger than I am in the sense that she is not afraid to use her fist if need be to protect her loved ones. And I'm like, girl, nope, that's not me. That is not me. So there's definitely parts of her that I can't personally relate to, but there are a lot of things about her that I really relate to. So this manga was definitely a second chance kind of thing, because I have tried the beginning of this manga, I feel like at least 2 or 3 times, and just always felt like really stuck in fear, like I can't read something like this because I'm gonna get a lot of flack. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, just it's what I want to read, so it's my decision. But that was a real big hang up for me. I'm so thankful, especially to my friend Danielle, for sitting with me and chatting with me, answering my questions about it, and a few other friends too that I had asked later on. I love the series, and I'm I'm very excited for the next volume and seeing what's going to take place because things are about to go down and I hope it's all going to be okay. For my honorable mention, I decided to do this one for the honorable mention because it does not start at volume 1, it's volume 3, and that is Last Game. Now, I talked about this in a reading wrap-up at some point. I don't actually remember which one it was, but I had loved volume 1, loved volume 2, and volume 3. I liked it, but by the end, I was really unsure. Like I said, I wanted to continue reading the series, but then I went and canceled my pre-order for volume 4, but I ended up getting volume 4 later. But anyway, I just was unsure because I love Yanagi and Kujo here on the back. I love them, and this is like a school rivals to lovers, but there's a whole lot more to it than just that. But I was upset because I felt Soma here was coming in trying to cause a love triangle, and I just did not want that. I was like, I know Yanagi and Kujo are very slow and maybe they need somebody to help them realize their feelings, but I didn't want Soma to be part of that. I think I was talking to, goodness, I don't know who I was talking to. I talked to somebody though, and I think it was Darcy, and she was like, I love this series. She's like, I love seeing the things that happen to Yanagi. I do too. And so her talking about it, I went back and reread some of volume 3. I was like, there really isn't a love triangle. I don't know why I was worried about that. And volume 4 like completely like summed it up. There is no love triangle or anything. Because of my friend Darcy, I ultimately gave this manga a second chance to come back. And I'm glad I did. I feel like though with all of these, honestly. But I just was reminded rereading volume 3 and then reading volume 4 that I really, really, really love this series. And funnily enough, okay, in volume 4, there is about to be a love triangle. I mean, it's not a real one, but there's a third girl trying to there's a girl trying to come in and she's trying to get with Yanagi. And I'm like, girl, you just don't have a chance. But the creator was like, I want your stereotypical rival girl. And I was like, I'm here for it. I'm living for it. Plus, I think it helped that with Soma, we get his backstory in volume 4. So I felt things were addressed and I'm like, okay, there's not going to be anything there. But I don't know why I'm okay with this girl trying to cause problems. I guess it's just because it's stereotypical rival girl. And I was like, we'll see what she can do. We'll see how she'll try because she ain't gonna be successful. So I'm glad I came back to the series. Glad that I got volume 4 in the end. I now have volume 5 pre-ordered. I don't know if I have volume 6 pre-ordered, but I definitely will continue the series because I'm super enjoying it and super loving it still. And very thankful because I think I would have been really sad if I did actually like permanently drop this one. And those, my friends, are all of my picks, all of the manga that came vividly to mind that I gave a second chance and wanted to keep reading. And I'm very, very thankful I did because I think all of these series are fantastic and great. And I definitely feel like these manga taught me that sometimes you need to come back and give manga a second chance. Sometimes you'll just feel differently. Like I definitely have felt that's an important thing to come back and try things you drop because you never know. You might love them again just like I did with these, but I would love to hear from you, friends. What are some manga or books you dropped, came back, and you're like, why did I drop it? This is amazing. I would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!